This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by the gentleman Chris Billam-Smith here at Wembley Stadium. Chris, it's good to see you, especially coming off such a big win at the weekend. How is everything?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Pleased with the performance at the weekend, and feeling fresh and excited to be here.
Before we talk about why we're here today, it's only right we look at the fight at the weekend, a monumental occasion when you look at the top of the bill, a historic night, and you are one of the few people on this planet that can say that you were a part of history that night. What was the whole occasion like in the fight week? Was it a different feel to the usual fight week?
It was for me because my last 6 or 7 fights before that I've headlined, so it took the limelight off of me a bit. Obviously an honour to be a part of that card and be fighting at another football stadium, but for me I was just very focused on my fight, and I think a lot of the fighters were getting asked questions about the main event, but it's hard as a fighter being on the card to appreciate the main event and focus on it, especially on fight week. So I didn't give any predictions or care about it when I was getting asked about it on fight week. But what do you mean, it's a huge fight, how can you not care about it? But I'm so zoned in on my own fight and getting my job done. But just a great occasion to be a part of looking back now. Now the fight's done and you can enjoy it a bit, and phenomenal fight at the main event.
Just looking at your fight with Brandon, I just said to you off camera, I think outside of the main event it was the fight of the undercard. I thought it was all action, it was a good watch. Were you surprised by anything Brandon Glanton did in the ring that night, or had you kind of prepared for him to be sitting on your chest the way that he was?
I know I prepared for that. I knew he'd come forward and he throws big shots. As I'm experienced now with someone who does that, so many people, commentators, have said, I should have just moved and boxed and stuff, and there's a time and a place for that, but you can't do that for 12 rounds against a puncher and give them confidence where you're just going to back off. So I had to stand there early on and let him know that he can't just push me around, hurt him to the body early on, took a lot out of him to the body, and I think that was a real key component of the fight. And then halfway onwards just took over the fight, and that was always the game plan.
Obviously at the press conference some comments were made that weren't appreciated obviously by yourself or a lot of the fans and people in boxing, saying things that he didn't respect you and along those lines. Do you feel that, obviously we could see after the fight that the respect was earned, was there any conversations had after the fight about that and just putting that behind you two? Yeah,
he had an issue with me not shaking his hand at the media workout for my fight with Lawrence in 2023. I never saw his hand, I never saw him offer me his hand. I don't even know where. He said it was on the pier or something like that, but I wasn't aware of it. For a start I was very ill that day, but yeah, I wouldn't have turned down anyone's handshake. But yeah, he had an issue with that. I apologised and said sorry, I never saw it. But and then I just had to say about the comments that he made about he's going to cause me brain damage, and that can't be said in a boxing, sense. It can't be allowed to be said. And I felt a lot of pressure from then on about having to win the fight for the greater good. Can't have people like that winning fights. There's an argument there to even say he shouldn't even been boxing against me. Could have easily been pulled. I didn't want that because I get a chance to do what I did. And but yeah, it's really difficult to put it to one side and focus on the fight, because it was just comments that really riled me up, and stuff that were on a show where both fathers of Eubank and Benn have had incidents in the past, because Eubank Jr himself has had incidents in the past, and we've seen it. We've had tragedies this year with people passing away after boxing matches. So it's really important that that was dealt with. And I just said, look, there's kids watching this. We can't be a better role model, basically. And he respected what I said and apologised. So what he said was already said by then, and unfortunately out there. But hopefully moving forward he can look at himself and be a better person.
You mentioned the comments firing you up a little bit. How hard was it to keep your cool on TV? Because obviously when you were asked, have you got anything to say, and you said you'll just show on Saturday. How hard was it just to be cool and be the gentleman that you have been your whole career?
To be honest, I didn't hear the comments in the press conference. It wasn't until I saw him after on the press conference. Someone told me I couldn't hear him on the stage. I don't know whether it's because of the way the speakers were positioned or what, but it was really it really affected me after I heard it. That night I was thinking about it and I was like, we need it's disgusting. It's just disgusting. To say you're going to cause someone brain damage, especially after talking about them being a father and having a family and all these things, it's just not right, and it can't be said.
Looking ahead now that you've got the decision win, what next up? I know you want those world titles, but is there any in particular world champion or just anyone that has got that belt?
Yeah, any belt, to be honest with you. I think for me it's just about getting back in there and getting another world title and becoming a two-time world champion, regardless of who it is. But from what I hear, obviously they've all got fights. WBC this weekend on the Canelo undercard between Badou Jack and Noel McCallion. But I think you look at Opetaya and Zerdo, from what I hear, if they both come through their fights, they're looking to fight at the end of the year. So I'd expect WBC to be the most likely, but we'll see.
Talking about why, actually, before we come on to today, obviously we'll talk about the main event on Saturday. Were you able to watch the main event first of all Saturday night? Did you stick around in the stadium?
I didn't stick around. I've seen it since, but I did my drugs test, did my interviews, and went back to the hotel, got some food and drove home. And it was on in the car, but I was driving the car home. Driving 2.5 hours home back to Bournemouth. I wanted to see my son in the morning, and for me that was kind of the theme of the night was about fathers and their sons. So it was quite in the end, and it was quite fitting for me to go home, just because in the morning I got to go and pick up my son and see him. So I was buzzing about that, and that was the most important thing. But phenomenal main event. It really delivered in terms of the hype that was there before it. Some of it not the right sort of hype with egg slaps and whatnot, but in the end I think they showed the best of boxing in terms of the fight, the heart shown, what us as fighters give in that ring. They gave everything, but also you had two families that were brought together by it, and a lot of respect was shown, and it was great to see both Nigel and Chris Senior there with their sons, two very, very proud fathers, and the sons just being there for with their dads.
Do you see any need for a rematch between Chris and Conor?
No, I think they should both go their separate ways, to be honest with you. I think the most important thing is their stock's risen. Conor's stock's still risen in defeat. He answered a lot of questions in terms of his chin, his desire at that level. He's never boxed near that level before, really. Especially upper weight, but yeah, I think he did superb, and I think I'd rather them go different ways.
For Eubank Jr, that does lead to a Canelo fight. It seems the WBC said they grant permission for that to happen for the winner. How do you see Eubank Jr getting on against Canelo, given what we saw on Saturday night?
You make Canelo favourite. I think Chris did well in there the other night, but Canelo's a different kettle of fish, a lot harder to hit clean. And obviously, multiple world champion for a reason. And I think, you always favour Canelo.
And talking about today, Usyk Dubois 2 now announced here, taking place at Wembley Stadium. Who do you see winning this rematch? How do you see it playing out?
I'd never ever bet against Usyk. He always finds a way to win. He's gone and boxed Fury and beat him twice. AJ beat him twice. And now he might be fighting another Brit and beating him twice as well. And I think just the way he goes about it, the sort of mental engagement he keeps his opponents in the whole fight, it just tires people out, because he's kept up that footwork and the way he fights and the work rate from the cruiserweights. And at heavyweight it's a lot different. It's a different sport almost, because they're a lot more flat-footed, more single punches, etc. So they've done superb. He's done superb moving up and keeping all that, and he's proven he can beat them all.
Obviously, you've been in the gym with Daniel before. Given from the man that you last saw in the gym with you to the fighter that he is now, how big are the improvements? What would you say has improved the most in his game?
I think the thing is just this mentality's changed. I think the Lorena fight, which he had in our gym, was a huge turning point. I know he boxed Usyk after that, but he had to overcome a massive knee injury in that fight and come through it. And I think that's what he hadn't really done before, had adversity in fights and come through it. He's either bowling people over or, you know, and knocking them out and getting stoppages, or I think before that he'd only ever been to points with Kevin Johnson and there was no adversity in that fight. But this time he'd overcome the adversity, and that's what he's managed to do a couple of times since the first Usyk fight as well. But I think the Lorena fight was a big turning point because of the way he was. But his confidence is going to be sky high. You're going to get the best version of Daniel Dubois, I think, because of the confidence and zero doubts. And then we'll see on the night. But I'd always favour Usyk.
If I had to get you to like split the percentages in who it favours more, what would you say the split is between the two?
I think it's close, but I think that just that mental edge, you're going to be like a 55 to 60% towards Usyk. I think that's always going to be the situation, and you can't bet against a man who's never been beat, and he hasn't been beat since, even as an amateur, since 2011. So he knows how to win.
Chris, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. Congratulations again, and look forward to the next one. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.